little Tory forest and animals here are shy. They do camouflage pretty well with their surroundings. Except for the okapi there on the right. She's trying to hide behind the tree, but we can still see her. Now if you look at her legs, especially the back legs, they look just like the zebra. But the okapi is not related to the zebra at all. They're related to the giraffe. It just kind of stole the print from them. So they have the same exact skull structure and the same exact long tongue. Then okapi come with its own eyeballs. That's how long their tongues are. But they have really short necks, so they are a giraffe by nature, but they can't reach up high, so that's the only reason they can reach up high in those trees and those leaves. We're going to be around the lake over here. Do you see a black rhino? There's two of them, but he's all the way in the back. We can definitely see him a little bit better on this side. Now, the black rhino, actually the lightest of the rhinos, they're only 3,000 pounds at maximum. And they have no natural umpires in the wild, but unfortunately humans are one of them. They are hunted down for their horns, which are made out of keratin like our fingernails, so they're not important to science whatsoever. There's a lot of organizations and research just like this one that are protecting those rhinos, make sure that their populations are increasing but not decreasing in size. There's also some greater kudu on our right. There's 3 of them. These are female greater kudu because they don't have horns. Only the males will have horns. They're up to 6 feet long and they'll spiral or twist. But the males look just like the females, just a lot bigger and with horns on top. On your animal spotting guide on the far left and far right, the first or last animal, depending where you're sitting, that is what the male looks like. So very similar, just with horns. We are going to make our way into the Sofie River. Sofie River is home to many aquatic animals that do rely on the water to survive. And typically there are hippos that reside in the first part of the Sofie. Now if you see any hippos, our animal keepers ask to remain absolutely silent because there's a baby hippo out here. She just turned 5 months old 2 weeks ago exactly. So she's still very tiny and so are her ears. So when she hears any sound, she will hide right underwater. It's just a new thing where she likes to sink to the bottom and just stay there. I don't know why, but then she likes to be there. But we can look around for some hippos, including the baby or any other aquatic animals out here. Now there are 2 hippos there on the right. You can kind of see one of them because the other one's on top of the first one. But these hippos, they can sleep underwater just like that because they can hold their breath for 10 minutes long. It also allows them to travel very far distances. But when they're sleeping underwater like that, they could be in a deep sleep and just naturally come up to get some air and then go right back down. They won't wake up for any of it. Let's see. There's a bloat of hippos here. These are definitely females, they're very small. Now we call a group of hippos a bloat because you see the hippos back there, then the one right here, they kind of look bloated underwater. And right now they are standing as they are sleeping because hippos, even though they are aquatic animals, they have no idea how to swim. They don't even know what that is, even though it's ironic. So when they move around to walk underwater or run, that is exactly what they're doing. They're going to walk from the bottom all the way to the very bottom of that water source. I think I see some more hippos coming down this way. I just have to double check because they're at the very, very bottom. But they're on the island. Those are pink-backed pelicans. And although they're not pink now, they do turn pink during mating season. It's a joke that we tell here in Harambe that they only turn that color during that time because they're blushing. They're so in love. Alright, we'll keep on looking around. Typically the baby hippo might be in that float, but she likes to lay on top of everybody else. So we'll keep on going and see. Oh, there she is. You can always hear her as we go around. Kind of, she's munching on something. Oh, it's the bear beside you. Just make sure we're sitting down, please. Thank you. Mom has to probably be under the bridge because she'll never leave her alone. Now we are going to go over the old Harambe Bridge, but we're going to go poly-poly. That means slowly. So there's a Nile crocodile right at the very bottom. And you see that most of these crocs are in water, so few on land. That's why they can cool themselves down those really hot days because crocodiles are reptiles. They cannot sweat or produce sweat. That's a really hard to do. So they can also come really wide and that's the air circulating through their bodies. But now where we are going, there aren't going to be a lot of water sources like the Sofie to be found. In the U.S. Savannah, it does not rain a lot. to actually maintain a water source or keep it up, but it rains enough that it can maintain vegetation. That's why I see a lot of trees and different plants all around you. Now these plants are accustomed to not getting a lot of rainwater, so when it does rain, they'll store all that rainwater in its roots and save it for a hot, dry day. But there's one tree that decides to be different, and that is the Bagel Bug Tree on your right hand side. Now instead of storing all that rainwater in its roots, it's going to save it right in its trunk, exactly a few hundred gallons of water, which a lot of animals do rely on. Now it has a nickname, which is the upside down tree, and that's because its branches look exactly like its roots, but that's only because they're made leafless 9 months out of the year. It tries to store as many gallons of water that it can to just save it for those hot months. It is the primary source of water for most to all of these animals because it is so hot, it is so dry as well as the ground that when it does rain, it acts as a sponge now and absorb all that rainwater. So it migrates for thousands of miles across the savannah, and the very large herds, groups, or packs just find a stable water source or some bagel bug trees. There is a very small tower of giraffes. That giraffe, that is the youngest one. He's about 6 months old. But we call it a group of giraffes a tower because they are so tall, they'll tower among every single animal. And the maximum height for adult giraffes is 20 feet, so they grow pretty tall. Now there are some more giraffes over there, the rest of their tower, so we'll go around and get a better view of them. He also has an older sister who is a baby. She is 1 though, but she's still very small compared to the rest of the giraffes. So we'll go by over there, see if we can find any more animals as well as those giraffes. Now on the left, there's some African wild dogs. They're all over the place in such a park. African wild dogs, although they do look and behave pretty similar to domesticated dogs, they are not related to them at all. They are very, very distant cousins. African wild dogs, they will have 4 toes, while domesticated dogs will have 5, and they are just missing the dew claw. It's a small tiny toe on the inside of a domesticated dog's paw. They will not have that extra toe. Also hiding in the bushes, all 4 of them. There are some in Collie cattle, also as Watusi cattle, but this male Watusi you can probably see better because he's the closest one. You see his horns are very, very large, but they are not heavy. They're actually very light because the inside is hollow. Also, speaking of horns, way in the back there are some Sable Antelope. Those are female Sable Antelope. They're very small in size, and so are the length of their horns. Typically, the male's horns grow over 5 feet long. Females only go towards their necks, and sometimes the males can go a little bit over their backs, so just hover over them. Alright, looks like that tower that we seen earlier is going to make their way all the way over here. Now this right here, the central part that we're going through, this is the giraffe's favorite spot ever. One of the many. So if you look at all the trees from the bottom somewhere to the top, they don't have any leaves or branches. That stinks to them. They will shape these trees to have a canopy. So that's why there's so much shade here. On the days that it's really hot or it does rain, all the animals, including the giraffes, will come right underneath here to get out of those weather elements. Sometimes they want to take a nap. They'll come over here and smell. And this giraffe, the little one that's leading in front of this one, that's the little one's sister. She's 1. So they're not side by side exactly, but he's 2 compared to her up underneath her chin. He's a super tall baby. Looks like down the other side there's another giraffe, and there's also some wildebeest and some springbok. The springbok are really, really tiny antelope. They get that name springbok because they'll spring 6 feet in the air and 13 feet forward. That makes them one of the top 10 fastest animals in the world. There's also some wildebeest with them. There's one inside the tall grass who's rolling around in the dirt. The wildebeest, they are very famous when it comes to migration because 1.5 million wildebeest will migrate all together at the same exact time. And even though a very large herd at that time or in general, they do not have a leader or anything of that sort. They all have the same exact status, so they do everything together and they do rely heavily on teamwork to survive.
I like the springbok. Yeah.
And looks like the springbok and the wildebeest are heading to the other side of the savannah, and so are we, as where all those bagel bug trees are over that hill. But we are going to take a shortcut because the West Savannah is the largest part of the reserve. It takes a while to drive through. So we're going to cut through elephant country right across. There's a lot of knockdown trees in this area, which is the entrance of it. And that's very common for elephants to kind of follow where they go, just by the trees that they knock down. They will sharpen their tusks on the trees and then push them down when they're all finished. Sometimes they just push down the trees for fun because they can push on the tree, they just want to do it. So we go around so you can find any in this area or any other animals. Let's see. There's 2 elephants. If these 2 are males, this would never happen. They'll be by themselves or very, very, very far apart because they do not like interaction at all. They like communicating. They're very antisocial. That is just by choice. If they want to, they 100% can. They just don't want to. And there on the left are some mandrills. Mandrills are the largest monkey in the world. These are all females, so they're actually very small. If there is a male mandrill next to the females, they are so large that they make these females look like babies until you see their babies. So when a mandrill is born, they're born about the size of your hand. They're super tiny, and then they grow up to be a very large monkey. And I think these are younger males. Not because I just know them too well, but they are a little bit larger and they're very small. Now again, I said males, they like to be by themselves or very far apart. These 2 are juveniles, they're also siblings, so they're not going to be far apart. Now they also might do something called jousting. That's when they run to each other and kind of bump heads and hit each other with their, not their tusks, but their trunks. That is completely normal. They're not fighting. They are just plain fighting per se. It's kind of like arm wrestling. There is an older one and a younger one, so it used to be the older one used to bully his younger brother, but now it's the other way around. The younger one always instigates these play fights. There he is right there, the one on the left, that's the younger one. And we see that the female elephants, they have tusks, so do these males. And they're both African elephants. Now you can look at the shape of his ears, see that they are shaped just like the continent of Africa. That is the easiest way to tell an elephant apart, or know what kind of elephant it is, just by the shape of their ears. Asian elephants will have smaller and round ears, and also a little bit smaller than the African elephants. And again, females will not have tusks, only the males would. Get a little bit closer. Okay, they might joust. See he's running to him just a little bit. So their tusks. Let's see, the little one, he's there on the left. You can look at the tree that he just put his trunk on. You see there's a lot of like markings on the side. So again, they do sharpen their tusks on there. There's a few that are knocked down, probably not from these younger ones. Here they go. Oh, it looks like the older one's gonna bully him now. Oh, and he took his food out of his mouth. Okay, well I guess that's how it works. He just like ran up and took his food. And he's eating it. Oh, and he's waving his face. They bully each other all the time in the morning. I don't know where they get the energy from, but it's every day constant. So since these are 2 younger males, there's probably some females on the other side, but typically the female would like to keep their distance because they have 2 younger ones and they don't want to be influenced by those 2. So we're gonna go around and see if we can find them, but we're gonna pass by some greater flamingos. And greater flamingos are the only flamingos that grow up to 5 feet tall. Also different from the baby giraffe. And they're only flamingos to get that exact pink color there, that really light pink. Now there are some flamingos. There's 6 of them. Kind of on the front here. That'll be white and yellow gray feathers. And those are baby flamingos. They don't get that pink color pink until they're around 18 months old. But some of them have a little bit of pink on their beaks or their legs or towards their tail area. Make our way into the East Savannah. The animals here are bigger, faster, and do rely on their characteristics to survive. It shouldn't be too hard to spot any animals. For the most part, they're pretty much out in the open. There on the left are 2 females, and all the way back there by that termite mound, there's the youngest one, the really tiny elephant. She's 5. She just turned 5 almost 3 weeks ago. Again, they're going to keep their distance from those 2 males. Right there in the middle, that is a mud wallow. Now, typically mud wallows are very small in size, but larger ones are for larger animals. Now, typically, if there's an animal that's going to roll around in mud, it's because they have thick and dry skin. The only one I can think of would probably be some rhinos, specifically white rhinos, since we are on the East Savannah. Now, they'll roll around in that mud to help cool themselves down because they have thick skin. Can't sweat as easily. They also have that light gray skin color, so they are prone to getting sunburnt. But rolling around in that mud is like rolling around in sunblock, so it is less likely to happen. And just by looking at the mud wallow right in the middle of it, looks like someone or something has rolled around in it. Possibly, again, those rhinos where it go on. So you can probably find them because they're always on the... Now, I spot a cheetah. There's two of them I can see on the left-hand side. Now, cheetahs, they are a rare breed of big cats. They're the only big cat out there that are not nocturnal, which means they don't do anything at night besides rest up. So they like to do their hunting in the daytime. There's less competition. Now, they're also the fastest land mammal in the world. So they can go from 0 to 80 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds. They're going to come up to a kopje. That's a large facial rock found on the savannah. And typically, bigger animals will make it their home because it is so high up. They can overlook the whole entire savannah for any prey or any large animals that might be nearby. So we look up at this kopje, especially the area right down below it that surrounds it, to see if there's any smaller animals considered the large ones prey. That will tell us if there are any large animals up top, because if you're very small and consider someone's dinner, you're not going to walk around where they can see you. You're definitely going to hide. Looks like there's some lions over there, so don't look too far. That's why you see these animals. She doesn't like it, can you tell? So these are lions, so they are sleeping. They're probably going to sleep later on. That's because they are nocturnal. They'll sleep 16 to 20 hours every single day. In the remaining hours, they are most active. Now, the male is going to stay behind on the kopje to protect his pride and his cubs, whereas the females will go out and do the hunting, not the males. Now, they are very good at hunting for one reason. If you look, can we see? No, we cannot. Yeah, they're all on the floor. But they have very thick padding at the bottom of their paws, so when they walk around across any type of ground, you cannot hear them. That's why they can sneak behind their prey pretty well and attack. So you can probably see this female a little bit better. They're probably up right now, but later on they're going to sleep. They sleep throughout the day. If they get up probably to eat or just move around. They're like domesticated cats, so if there's warmth or the sun, they're going to pop right up top there. And there are some warthogs here on the left-hand side. Now, warthogs, they are burrowing animals, so living burrows underground just like this. Now, they have those very, very large tusks. Now, the male, you can probably see him a little bit better, and he's also large, so are his tusks. But the upper ones, or the largest ones, used for digging off those holes and burrows. Are these smaller ones we can see as he opens his mouth. Those are used for defense. Now, they are very small depending on that warthog. It's like a secret weapon. You won't really see them until they open their mouths. There is a crash of white rhinos here on the left. There is, where is he? There's a baby, but he's kind of under mom over there. We call a group of rhinos like this a crash because they tend to crash into things. They have really poor eyesight, so you can see only up to 30 feet in front of them. But if you look at their ears, they are cupped and moving around in different directions. That's how they can listen to sounds all around them and locate where they are coming from. Sometimes they can identify where those sounds are coming from, or even know if they are, but it takes a while for them to be familiar with them to even identify them. Now we're going to make our way into Mongodb Glen, and this is where Warden Wilson's post is. And Warden Wilson is out on the reserve right now looking after all the animals. And so while he's away, he has to check on his new Nigerian dwarf goats that he recently adopted. Make sure they're also okay while he is gone. He has 4 goats, so I have to do a quick head count just to make sure that they're all here. But we are also going to check up on them as we go around. 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're all out here. Looks like they're doing okay. There's someone sleeping and eating. Now, although they are small, they make a really big impact here at Harambe Village and for other groups around the world. We don't rely on bigger animals such as cattle because they take up way too much space, but we can rely on these Nigerian dwarf goats. They take the least amount of space, and they also produce milk that is super sweet and full of nutrients, which is really good for our health. So we're very grateful to have them here on the reserve. definitely want Warden, or that is Nigerian tour shows. They're all doing okay. So we're on our way back to Harambe Village, which means that our safari is coming to an end. And most animals that you can see here today are endangered or close to extinction, and they are relying on you for help. And there's so many ways that you can help even back at home. Now, my favorite way to help out is to recycle, because it's super easy to do. You can do it almost anywhere you go.
Yeah.
So paper, electronic devices, and plastic, and other materials. For those who are probably most of the covered right around out there are affected by recycle, reuse, reuse, repurpose items and materials that we already have. Get those items and materials that you really want or need. Now, just like your at Disney's Animal Kingdom and the Disney World Conservation Fund. So how that works is that any amount that is donated to the conservation fund gives you a match up dollar for dollar. It can be any amount, $1, leftover change, anything greater than that. It gives you a match up 100%, and you can make those donations at any merchandise or food location anywhere you go on Animal Kingdom property. Now, we are back here in the village. We're just going to wait for a warden post. Now, as you leave your warden post, you will be entering Gorilla Falls. Gorilla Falls is a walking trail, just like the safari, but behind the scenes. So most animals that you did see in your safari, you'll definitely see up close. You could view some hippos underwater, probably see the baby, depending if she wants to swim around. There'll be some meerkats, frogs, snakes, fish, birds, monkeys, rats. They have literally everything out there. And gorillas, as the name implies, in Gorilla Falls. So as you leave, you're going to see the bachelor group first, so those are the males. But as you go around to the front side, there will be females, and there's 2 babies. See how they're super cute. There's Ida and Grace. Ida, she's 5 months old, about to be 6 pretty soon, and then Grace is 2, going on 3. Alright, looks like Warden is calling us in, which means that we have to say goodbye. And I don't like to say goodbye, it's far too sad to say. But let's say Quadarini, and that needs to go well in Swahili, and I wish you all very much well on the mission to be here at Disney's Animal Kingdom.
Yeah,
So,
goodbye.